Hi, this is Jose Palomino with another episode of the Revenue Throughput Podcast. Our guest today is Tim Fitzpatrick. And Tim runs Rialto Marketing, and he works with coaches, consultants, and professional service firms anywhere from $1 million to $5-10 million. Tim brings a strategic view to the marketing process, and he's very practical. You're going to find, I think, the conversation will be very pithy. So listen closely as we welcome Tim Fitzpatrick to the Revenue Throughput Podcast. Welcome, Tim, to the Revenue Throughput Podcast.
Jose, thanks so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, Tim, and we've had occasion to chat in other times, and just it seems like you do a lot of things that are very near and dear to my heart in terms of strategy and so on. Could you just expand for our listeners just a little bit, like who do you primarily serve, and what do they look to you to help them with?
Absolutely. So our ideal clients tend to fall in several different camps: coaches, consultants, or professional service providers. So, CPAs, attorneys, insurance brokers, those types of folks. They, are ideally they're, million plus in revenue. They've had some success, but they want to continue to grow, and they've hit a ceiling. They've hit a roadblock. They can't quite push through that. And so we help clients get the fundamentals of marketing in place, because so many businesses skip them. And because of that, we were talking beforehand, a lot of businesses find ways to succeed in spite of that, but they will reach a plateau. And you got to have the fundamentals in place. So we help them get those fundamentals in place, put a plan in place so that they know what their priorities are. And then we can help them manage and implement that plan so that they get some consistent, repeatable results with their marketing.
Okay, so somebody listening here, let's say they fall into that spot and they say, listen, we just hit $1.2 million. It's just 4 of us. I'm doing pretty well. I get to take Fridays off. But, I'm just saying, what's broken with that? And what's a sign that somebody's at that plateau that's due to lack of planning that you found? When you talk to people, you say, I think the planning piece caused you to miss a step here and miss an opportunity.
So, well, I can look at somebody's website and get a pretty good idea of whether they have honed in on their target market and who they're trying to serve.
Okay.
And whether they have good messaging, okay, for that target market. I can tell that almost immediately by just looking at what they're doing online. But a lot of what typically ends up happening, right, is they're stuck. Okay. Most of the clients we work with, they're battling information overload when it comes to marketing. There are so many different marketing channels today. There's tons of tactics within those channels. There's no shortage of gurus saying, hey, Jose, you need to be here. And no, next week you need to be here. Mm-hmm. And they're just overwhelmed. And when we're overwhelmed, we typically don't plan very well, do we?
But if we don't have just stop.
Yeah, like right.
Just don't do anything, because
exactly.
I can't figure out which path. There's 8 lanes in front of me. I'd rather just park the car.
So we stop, or we do things haphazardly. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, let me try this, or let me try that. And that's just not going to work, And when we don't have a plan and we don't know what our priorities are, we don't have clarity. And what happens when we don't have clarity? Our stress goes through the roof. So that's typically what we see in some way, shape, or form. They just don't know what to do next. That next step is eluding them.
Okay, so let me loop back a little bit, because you said something I think very powerful, that when you look at somebody's website, company's website, you get a pretty clear idea pretty quickly if they're having a challenge with identifying their target market. Okay. So what does that manifest? So somebody listening right now saying, well, I don't know, I think my website's pretty good. I just spent, $20,000 on it. It should be pretty good. What is it? So what are some of the tells that you look at to tell you these people haven't really zeroed in on their target market very well?
I just look at, are they with what they're saying anywhere on their website? Are they calling out the types of clients that they typically work with? In any of their messaging, are they saying who they serve? That's a telltale sign, because a lot of businesses say, well, we work with entrepreneurs or small business owners. Man, that's just they're all over the place. It's too broad to me. Especially when you're a small business and you have a limited budget. You do not have the time or the resources to attempt to attract a very broad market. You have to hone in on and really understand who those clients are that you love working with, that are profitable, that you get great results for. Because when you know those people and you can really get inside their head as it relates to what you do, then you can start to do some really great things with your marketing. But if you don't understand your target market, that's where everything from a marketing standpoint starts. And if you're not calling out who those people are on your website, that's a pretty good indication to me that you may not have honed in as much as you should.
Well, so let me ask you this question. Let's say somebody's a little bigger. You talked about professional services firms, right? So
Yeah,
that could be a law firm, that could be an accounting firm,
sure.
that kind of engineering firm, and it could easily scale to two, three, $4 or $5 million in top line revenue. That type of company. And you say, well, we got to hone in on the target. And you say, well, we actually do serve mostly small businesses. We're not going to say, we serve hot dog stand owners. So what's the range of specificity that you really can? And we'll move off this topic, but I think it's such an important thought around target market. Like, how refined is too refined, or is there such a thing? Maybe we should be saying we're the hot dog audit specialist.
Yeah, well, and you can, right? I've seen people that go very, very narrow. I like it to be specific, but with versatility, right? I think if you are specific enough, as long as when you communicate your message, if the people that are seeing that message say, Jose's talking to me, that's me, I think you're specific enough. I don't necessarily think you need to go super, super deep. You can if you want, but I think you have to go deep enough where you can start to look at, okay, let's say we're one of our ideal client types is chiropractors. Okay.
Okay.
If I can say chiropractors and I can start to create a list of all the different places where they might be, and I can get a good list, then I think you're specific enough. But if I've got this list, small business owners, and I'm starting to create a list of where they are, and it's just there's too much, right? There's too much on there and it's too broad. I don't think you've gone narrow enough.
Right, because a small business owner could be heavy industrial, could be software, could be
Yeah,
chiropractor. That's a pretty big range of
just
who's
all over the place,
right.
right? But if I say chiropractors or dentists, I can start to go, well, what associations do they belong to? What groups are they on Facebook or LinkedIn? What forums do they frequent? Are there chiropractic publications, magazines that they get? Um, are there influencers in the space that they follow? What websites do they go to? You can start to create a pretty targeted list when you go that narrow. And man, that list, that's where you need to go. Those are the potential places you could go to get your message in front of those exact people.
Okay, so now just to work on your thought around planning, right? So
Yep.
a list is not a plan.
Correct.
Okay, so could you expand on? So somebody listening said, "Yeah, we got lists galore. Like every day, I'm getting a new spreadsheet. We should talk to these people. We should
Yeah.
do this. We should do that. We should." And you also talked about, and I've even had it in my world where you have, very well-meaning people said they just read some guru, whatever. You have to do this,
Yeah.
and people like you have, and there's so many strategies. I relate completely to that. Looking at 8, 10 options of go to market, and they all sound good in the abstract, but they're not all executable, not at the same time. I mean, we're not,
Yes.
even Apple makes choices on what they spend their money on. So,
Correct.
so how do you help somebody like that make sense of the noise and take advantage of that list if they've even put one together?
Yeah. So the way we look at marketing planning is in 90-day sprints. I think it's so easy to overcomplicate marketing because of all that information. Our businesses are evolving quickly and our marketing needs to be able to do the same. 90 days is long enough to start to see whether things are getting traction, but it's short enough where you can look at what's happening, make adjustments and course corrections, and wash, rinse, and repeat.
Hmm.
It's also simple enough where, I mean, it's a 1 or 2 page marketing plan. This is not long. There's 6 elements in there. One is your target market. At the very least, I want a paragraph for each of the ideal client types you intend to work with. It should not be more than 3, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think if it's too many, it's going to be too broad. So you need to focus down. The second thing is you got to know what's my goal. We have to have an idea of where we're headed. So it's going to be time bound, but it should be specific and measurable. We intend to bring on 10 new clients in the next 90 days. The third thing is what's your budget and what are your resources? So do I have $500 a month? Do I have $10,000 a month to invest in my marketing? And then from a resource standpoint, how much staff time do I have? And what capabilities do my staff have? If somebody on my staff has 8 hours a week and I want to put them on Facebook and LinkedIn and they know nothing about it, well, that's probably not a great fit, right? So we have to, in this third step, all we're looking at here is just what do we have to work with? Because that's going to help determine what we can take on in our plan. The fourth thing I look at is what we're currently doing. What's our current plan? And I know a lot of people don't have a current plan. That's okay. I just want to get down on paper what we've done and what we continue to do. This gives us a baseline because we can't identify what we need to do to get to where we want to go until we know where we're starting from. It's just like my GPS.
And even if that current plan it feels at first blush to be maybe, I think it's an empty sheet of paper, the reality is you're doing something. We answer the phone.
Yes.
We respond to emails. We check our LinkedIn, whatever. It's some level of activity, however ineffective it might be.
Absolutely. Right. A lot of people that don't have a plan, man, there's plenty of businesses that have built very large businesses on referral, 100% referral. Well, you're still doing something, right? And what are you doing within that referral activity to generate all those referrals, right? You're doing something. So we have to get a baseline. Then in the fifth step, we can outline what we're going to focus on in the next 90 days. These are your priorities. And what'll help determine your priorities is where you're starting from and the budget and resources that you have. Here, we're just ensuring that we're not biting off more than we can chew, and we're outlining what we're going to focus on and what we're going to do for the next 90 days. And then the last step is what metrics are we going to track? We were talking offline before we jumped on about how many people are investing in marketing and they have no idea whether it's working or not. The metrics help us identify whether the actions we're taking are making an impact. We don't need to go super deep here. I think we need the most important high-level metrics. If you want to go into the weeds on it later, you certainly can, but track the ones that really matter. And then at the end of the 90 days, you can look at what do we do? What are the metrics telling us? Should we continue to invest in this and continue to do it? Or do we need to shift course a little bit or make some adjustments? And then let's put that in the new plan and focus for another 90 days.
Yeah, and you're hitting on one of my I guess pet peeves on metrics, right? So how many clients I've sat with that they show me, so, here's our report we got from our SEO firm or our PPC firm. And it's a 40-page PDF made up of a myriad number of charts.
Yeah, they're never going to read it.
The owner has no idea how to read it, and is a little chagrined to admit that, because they're supposed to, apparently, because they were told this is the easy executive report, and they can't make head nor tails of it. They say, well, I keep on spending the money, but I don't know. And it's like in the old days, I had a client who didn't want to cancel the Yellow Page ad. This was in the transition. It wasn't recent, but it was recent enough that it was like, really? And it was like $20,000 a year on a Yellow Page ad. And I asked the one question. I said, can you attribute one deal in the last 5 years that you can say came from your Yellow Page ad? And he said, no. And I said, okay, well then that's that. And they, sure enough, they didn't feel it. So I guess the point is, I love what you're saying about simple metrics to see if you're making 90-day progress. I think it's a really good way to approach it, Tim.
If you think about it, let's look at that example of the, they're gonna say what keywords you're ranking for, how much traffic is going to your website, right? Those are all vanity metrics. The only metric that matters is out of all those people that are going to your website, how many leads are you generating, and how many of those leads are you then converting to customers? If you can't tell me that, then none of that stuff matters. So the easiest place for most people to start is start to track how many leads you're generating and how many you're converting. Because once you know that, when you know, hey, we need 5 leads to generate a new customer or whatever the number is, man, that's really empowering. Most business owners cannot tell you what that number is for them.
Right. I 100% agree with that statement. Even substantially larger firms also have a hard time with that. And I love the phrase, and I will borrow it. I don't know if you borrowed it, but it's pretty good. Vanity metrics.
Oh yeah, I no, please do. I didn't come up with. I've heard people talk about it all the time, but it's in marketing. There's so many vanity metrics. You know, how many followers do you have on Facebook? How many people are on your email list? How many visits are to your website? Who cares? Are you generating leads and are you converting those to customers? That's what it really comes down to.
So it really isn't complicated. It's not
No,
easy,
it's not.
but it's not complicated in essence, right there.
Yep.
So wow. So Tim, when somebody makes these transitions and starts putting a plan in place, how challenging is it to get their team, if they have a leadership team or they have other people on the squad that have to get involved, that up till now have been tasked to do all this? So here you are, and you say, here's the plan. How is it? Do you find that teams say, "Oh, finally a plan," or is it more like, "Boy, I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, and now this interloper's coming in with a new plan"? I'm just kind of curious how that's played out for you.
I think in general, it's pretty well received, because a lot of, even if we're working with somebody that has marketing people on staff, a lot of those marketing people are doing, the expectations that have been put upon them are unrealistic. You know, business owners are hiring maybe a marketing manager or somebody who's executing that, they're paying, it could be anywhere from 40 to 80 grand a year. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff that they're asking those people to do is very strategic. This is, multiple 6-figure type work that they're asking these people to do. It's not realistic. And so when somebody can come in to help with that strategic work and give them that guidance, it gives them some support that they hadn't had prior.
Well, so I also think too, what makes that happen as well, in my opinion, is that it's kind of the gurus are out there saying everything is their simple 5-step this, 3-step that, 8-step that. And I understand why cognitively you need to break things down and make things simple.
Yeah.
But I could see an owner saying, well, I'm paying this person, like you said, $40, $80, $60,000. How hard can it be? After all. I mean, even the Kardashians have made billions. How hard can it be? Well, it's actually very hard, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that's an easy conversation to have because, you just start, you can just start talking about it. It's like, hey, Mr. Business Owner, here's what we have in marketing, right? We have the fundamentals, your target market, your messaging, how are you going to communicate your value? We've got your website and all the other things associated with your website. Do you have good messaging there? Do you have good calls to action? How are you generating leads from your website? You've got offline marketing. What are you guys doing from an offline standpoint? Are you doing networking? Are you doing, you just start going over each channel and start listing all the various things that need to happen. By the time I'm done, they're going to go, oh my God, my head's spinning. I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's happening to your person that you're giving all this stuff to do. Marketing is too diverse to be great at everything. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. You can't. You have to focus. You and I are both in this space, right? We don't do everything. You can't, right? And so we have to hone in. Now, can we bring in players that are great at that one thing? Absolutely, we can. But we have to have the wherewithal to know what we're great at and what we're not, and bring the people in that we need to. It's impossible for one person to drive an entire marketing plan by themselves.
Well, it's also like, kind of just, I think a good analogy is the architect versus the builder, right? So you don't expect your architect designing a beautiful home to necessarily be a drywall expert, a licensed electrician, a plumber.
Exactly.
You wouldn't expect that. Nor would you just turn to your plumber and say, do you think that room would look better with this kind of exposure to the sun or not? What's your opinion, plumber? You're in houses all day, don't you know? And yet that's kind of what goes on over here is where, people are asking, they're either not hiring the architect or they're asking the plumber to kind of offer their opinion. The plumber has an opinion. So, oh, I think it looks great there. I think
Yeah.
that'd be, has an opinion. Doesn't mean it's an informed or, a proper opinion, but it's an opinion,
Yes.
sure. So I think that's a really, I love what you do, Tim, and that you focus on the plan first. So my last question, as we're running out of time here, but I really want to get to this thought. So somebody's saying, boy, we've hit a plateau. We're stuck. And I run into that. That's kind of where my sweet spot is with companies is when they hit that plateau. They know they feel there's more growth there, but they can't get at it. And they're a little bit impatient. They want it to happen right away. And then you say, well, wait a second. We got to design the blueprints for this future of what you want.
Yep.
Do you run into situations where an owner or leader is so eager to get going that they kind of feel a little bit dismissive of the planning step?
All the time.
Okay.
So, and when that happens, right? If I can't get them on board with that, then they're probably not a good fit for me. Now, having said that, I think while you're in the planning stages, there are always certain things. There's always some low-hanging fruit,
Sure.
right, that we can take advantage of. Usually that low-hanging fruit is what's already working for them. What are you already doing that's working? Let's look at that and determine whether you're completely maximizing that opportunity. Most people are not. There are opportunities to plug things in to really squeeze all the juice out of that we possibly can. So if we can get an owner on board to invest in that time that it's going to take to do strategy, and look, we're not talking about 6 months to a year. This is a couple months worth of work. Usually a couple months in the scheme of things is nothing. If all you want to do is just get tactical immediately, like if somebody says, I have got to generate leads tomorrow, that's not a good place to develop strategy from. They're not going to be a good fit. But inevitably what happens to those people is 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road, all the stuff they've done doesn't work. They've wasted time, they've wasted money, and they still have to come back to the fundamentals. So if I can communicate that to somebody and they still don't get it, then I can't help them.
Right. No, that's great. I mean, right. You can't want strategy more than they want it, and they have to get
Yeah,
it.
yes.
Right. I mean, it just is. Well, Tim, look, we're out of time on this episode. Great conversation. Really appreciate it. If somebody listening said, "Hey, this guy Tim sounds like somebody I'd like to know more about," where should they go to find out more about you? Get in touch with you.
The best place to go is our website, Jose, which is rialtomarketing.com. So that's RIALTO marketing.com. If they go to rialtomarketing.com/the-revenue-throughput, there's a ton of free resources for your listeners there on the fundamentals that we started to dig into today. Some of the tools, templates that we use in our business for clients are there. They can take advantage of them.
Oh, that's right. That's very kind of you to make that available, and we'll make that that'll be in our show notes. So we'll have live link to the page as well. But Rialto Marketing and Tim Fitzpatrick, thank you. It's been our pleasure to have you on the Revenue Throughput podcast.
Thanks so much.